Ben Cobbs.
And where are you from, Ben?
Iowa originally.
And tell us about your growing up. I mean, you went to high school in Iowa?
Yes, sir. I was in the 12th grade. Me and the shop teacher got in a little argument. He hit me with a paddle and I hit him with a fist. And I had 9 weeks to go my senior year when I got kicked out of school. I went in the Marine Corps. They gave me a GED test and I failed it, or passed it that time. And when I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to work teaching math for the adult education there in Newton, Iowa, and took the test again and passed it, and took the test again, and finally got my high school diploma.
Well, good.
And then...
so what year did you go into the Marine Corps?
May 24th, 1954.
Okay.
Right to the day.
And you
enlisted in Newton, Iowa, and went to Des Moines, caught the train, and went to San Diego to boot camp.
Okay. So you went to boot camp in San Diego.
Yep. And
tell us about that experience.
Well, that was a pretty good experience because I was boxing at the YMCA in my last 2 years of high school, and so I was in pretty good shape. I went to boot camp, I weighed 194, and got out of boot camp, weighed 192. And I was the second squad leader, a big boy from Texas. I had a group from Texas that wasn't enough for a platoon. We had a group from Iowa that wasn't enough for a platoon, so they threw us together. And you think we didn't fight the Civil War over again? But we come out with an honor platoon. I got PFC out of boot camp. And I went home on leave, and come back in Camp Lejeune for ITR, which is Advanced Infantry Training. And then I did so good at that, they sent me to San Diego to the Amtrak school. I come out of Amtrak school and got on a boat in San Diego and went to Korea. Got off the boat in Korea and went to 3rd Tank Battalion.
You remember the boat you were on?
USS Lenawee.
Okay.
It was a civilian ship contracted by the Marine Corps and Navy.
Okay. And then you went to a tank battalion.
Right, 3rd Tank Battalion, Charlie Company.
In Korea.
In Korea, and they were just pulling it out, and so we went back to Japan and loaded up on LSTs and LSDs and everything they could get to haul those big old tanks, M48s. And we docked in Yokosuka, Japan. And we sit there on the beach till they got tired of us there, and of course it was a Navy dock, and of course we had lots of fun with the Navy there. So we loaded up again, and I forget, we docked in Kobe, Japan, and we drove our tanks from Kobe, Japan to South Camp Fuji, Japan, and there was a little Japanese running along behind us with a little tablet of paper writing down all the buildings we destroyed and everything, and then big tanks going through little Japanese towns. And of course, Uncle Sam paid for all the damage we did, I guess, which was considerably. We ended up in South Camp Fuji, Japan, which was South Camp, North Camp, Middle Camp, and 1st Air Force, Army Air Force, no, Seabees was at the Middle Camp, and South Camp was 3rd Tank Battalion, and North Camp was 101st Airborne. So we had some Army and Navy and Marine Corps there to make things exciting. Our little town was Fujioka, Japan, which is right outside the gates from South Camp Fuji there. We spent a lot of time there. I had me a little honey. Of course, this is before I got married. And I was trying to marry her when they finally sent me back to the States after I had like 16 months in the Far East altogether.
Okay.
And then I went back to Camp Lejeune and got attached to 8th Tanks at Camp Lejeune. And I re-enlisted there just a little bit after I had 3 years, just as soon as I could without having my 4 years in yet. And I come out, I went to Jacksonville, Florida, to jet aircraft engine school. And come out second in class, and the first 5 of us had our choice of duty orders. Well, we all put in for Miami, Florida. And they was closing down Miami. So they had 5 billets open in New Orleans. So we all went to New Orleans. We got there at New Orleans, and they just transferred from the Lake Pontchartrain lakefront, where LSU is now, Louisiana State University. New Orleans they call it, instead of just plain LSU. And we all went over to Belchase, which was over across the big bridge over in Belchase, Louisiana. Is where it was Air Force, Navy, and Marine reserves when we was training reserves. Well, I spent a year and a half there, and got married in October 2nd, 1958, and we're still there in New Orleans. And we had a big football game with a semi-pro football team. Got our ass kicked. Had fun anyhow, and that was on 4th of July. So we all went to Pontchartrain Beach, and that's where I met the wife. And she was sitting there in her bikini, and her mother-in-law was sitting there, and they had a damn little Chihuahua dog. Or that dog, mother-in-law had 2 or 3 of them. Well, the mother-in-law was only 1 year older than me, and my ex-to-be wife was 7 years younger. On our 3rd date, we got engaged. In 3 months, we got married. I went up to home, Iowa, on leave, and told Mom and Dad I was getting married, and Mom and Dad didn't believe it. But they come down to Louisiana, and we got married in the Methodist Church. Been married 58 years now. And
wow.
My wife spent 14 of it in the Marine Corps with me. The rest of the time, she stayed in the States, and I went up Far East.
So when you say you went to the Far East, you're talking Vietnam.
Well, I ended up there. But I went, my first trip back after the 16 months I spent there, I spent 13 months in Suzuki. No, not Suzuki, that was a town. Atsugi, which was a small air base in the middle of nowhere, somewhere between Yokosuka and Tokyo. And then I come back to the States. Well, that's when I was still in the grunts then. And I went back to the States, and then I went to New Orleans, and then I went to Beaufort, South Carolina. And I was with Hams 32 there in the maintenance department. And we had jet aircraft there, so I spent, I guess, 2.5 years there at Beaufort. And went to Iwakuni, and then was with VMFA 314, and we transferred our squadron to what did I say, Iwakuni? No, that's where we was at. I got transferred to Da Nang, and we pulled a 6-month tour there in Da Nang, went back to Iwakuni, and back to the States. And I went to high night duty in Brooklyn, New York, a little air base they had there. And everything went good there, but except I couldn't stand on New York. So I volunteered to go back to Japan or Iwakuni just to get out of New York. And the wife wasn't too happy about it. Anyway, while I was in New York, I was in charge of flatline, and we had helicopters and jet trainers, T-33s. And I was awarded a set of orders to go to helicopter school. And I said, nope, not me. And I've already had orders to go back to Japan. I said, I ain't getting in helicopters going back to Japan. No. Or Da Nang. So anyhow, I went back to Iwakuni and ended up in BMFA 122, which is a Marine Fighter Squadron. And we had F4, F4Bs. And we went back to Da Nang. And that was a pretty short tour. I think it was about 3 months. We replaced the BMF outfit that had their time there and was pretty well shot down, and so we went and replaced them, and I think I was there like 3 months that time. Went to Japan, ended up back to Cherry Point, North Carolina. And then from there, I went back to Iwakuni again. From Iwakuni, we went to Okinawa. From Okinawa, we went to the Philippines, Kiwi Point. And from there, we went back to Vietnam.
So this.
And from there, I had my choice of going back to Japan, waiting for transportation back to the States, or I had 2 weeks to find something better if I could. So very lucky they had a B-52 was shot up there at Da Nang, and they got it finally ready, and they wasn't allowed to keep them there. So lucky old Ben Cobbs jumped on the B-52 and flew straight back to the States.
But you had 3 tours to Vietnam.
Yeah, 3. Not full tours, but multi tours.
Yeah.
Multi pieces.
And you do have the combat action ribbon.
Oh yeah, yeah. I got that the first time. When we went in there the first time, we didn't even have a runway. We had Marshall Day. I was in the flat line in the tire shop, and they'd blow tires every time I hit that damn Marshall matting. Other than that, it was a basic tour, but of course we couldn't go into Da Nang because we was still fighting the war then. Well, last war I was in charge of security of the flight line, and I had like 26 troopies under me that was security, inboard security aboard the base there.
Now tell us, you had mentioned to me that you injured your head.
Yeah, I don't talk about that very much, but I was in Iwakuni, Japan, and me and a friend was out in town hooting around, and we wasn't too far out of Hiroshima, so we jumped on the motorcycle, headed for Mishima. Wonder where the yellow went when the big bomb hit the Orient, you know, and we jumped and mouthing off, and the car pulled out in front of me, and I went off in the ditch, and I hit one of the cross beams of the ditch and landed on my head. I had a helmet on and everything, but I split the whole side of my head open. Took me back to the sick bay there at Iwakuni. I was in a coma for 13 days. My folks up in Iowa didn't know what happened to me because they hadn't got a letter from me, and at the time, I wasn't even married yet then. Anyhow, Mom called the Red Cross, and the Red Cross said there wasn't no Benny Cobbs in the Marine Corps. She was all worried, and when I was able, I scratched a little letter and sent them a paycheck. Some of this stuff is mixed up as when it happened, but it all happened at one time or another. And like I say, I don't remember too much anymore. My memory's about that long.
Now tell us about your leg.
Oh, listen.
Let me pan down.
You want a picture of it? That's what's left of it.
Tell us what happened.
What happened, I was at Cherry Point. I was playing volleyball with the 2nd Marine Division. I was stationed with H&MS Headquarters Maintenance Squadron. I was playing volleyball with the base volleyball team, and my right thigh kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it got where I couldn't get a pair of Levi's on my leg. And so I went to the little sick bay there, and they says, oh, that's just because I busted my left knee when I was at Camp Lejeune playing volleyball and sandlot volleyball. And they said that since I had hurt my left leg, that I was using my right leg to do all the jumping, and the thigh kept getting bigger and bigger, and like I say, I couldn't get a pair of Levi's on, so they sent me to Bethesda Navy Hospital, and they shot some juice in my leg and took a picture of it, and it looked like a football. One end hooked in my knee and the other end hooked in my hip and butt. And so the next day I went to surgery. I had 10 doctors for 11 hours. And they managed to save part of the leg from the knee down, and of course the rest of it is nothing but bone right there and the hamstring muscle in the back. And that was it. And because when they took the biopsy, it was melanoma, so that's why they took it off so quick. And they said, well, we're going to try to save it. And like I said, they took everything except the hamstring muscle in the back, and from the knee down it was all normal. And then they gave me a year and a half's therapy, and I learned how to walk with the electric shock treatment that learned me how to make my hamstring make its leg go this way instead of fold back this way. So I just completely reversed what the hamstring was doing. And I left out there walking with a cane and went back to where the Navy base is?
Great Lakes?
No, East Coast.
Norfolk?
Yeah, Norfolk. Virginia, yeah. And they transferred me back to not Buford, but Cherry Point, and that's where my wife and family was. And I went to wing career planning. I'd been to career planning while I was at El Toro. I was at El Toro once or twice too. but anyhow, the second time I was in El Toro, I went to career planning school in San Diego, at NSE, Navy Training Center, and went back to El Toro. And at that time I got orders to Vietnam, and I went straight to Vietnam, and then we transferred out of Vietnam, went to Iwakuni again, and then back to the States. And that time was when I went to Cherry Point, I think. But I know I had a couple of tours in El Toro anyhow. But anyhow, I had training for career planning, and so I was wing career planner there in, for second wing in Cherry Point. And I got orders to go to Harrier School in England, and which is a jet fighter that goes straight up and down like a helicopter. And in the process, I got my retirement orders with 50% disability.
Retired with 22 years in the Marine Corps.
Right.
And how does it feel today to be a retired Marine?
It was the greatest thing that ever happened. Now, especially if the VA doesn't give me all that good money. I waited years for it, because when I retired, you couldn't get both the Marine Corps retirement and the VA retirement. And I never knew it till I met you at the high school with my grandson, and you asked how much I got from Marine Corps, and I told you, and he says, I'm going to get you some more money. And darn if he didn't. And
we're grateful.
Had a great time since then.
We're grateful to help you. You've earned every bit of it.
Well, I don't know that. I had a good time. I had all of it anyhow.
But we just want to thank you for this interview, and we're really proud of you. 22 years in the Marine Corps, 3 tours to Vietnam.
I'd have stayed 30 if they'd let me, but they wouldn't. We had a pilot that had 2 artificial legs. Of course, it was below the knee, which makes it a lot easier than above the knee, but they wouldn't let me stay with 1 leg, so I couldn't run the 3 miles anymore. I used to do it in 28 minutes, but no more.
But again, we are very thankful for you, and welcome home.
You'd be surprised how many people thanks the military people. I'm glad to be one.
Yep. Thank you, Ben.
You're welcome.